Welcome back, everybody, to Astrology Unplugged. It is August 21st, and we're good. We're excited to be back. I wanted to take a minute to thank Linda and Rick for our last episode because I had to step out and they just took over and they did a beautiful job. Um, and in fact, they're here. Of course, they're back with this great topic. This is a beautiful topic and it's a timely one. I don't know if it ever wouldn't be timely, but I think it's really timely at this time in history, in our lives, and this applies to everyone. So tonight we'll be discussing the rise of the divine feminine. Um, this is something that is timeless, but it's just as we've seen if you've been alive and not living under a rock
Hmm.
for the last, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 years, it's come into our awareness in a new way. And it's important because think about it in, 5 generations from now, perhaps there'll be
Hmm.
some shifting that has happened in a really beautiful way. But before we get started, I do want to say um, our next time we meet, it'll be September 4th, and we'll be discussing the upcoming eclipses that month. Eclipses, as you know, are one of my favorite topics, and they don't just apply for September. September 7th is the next one, and then 2 weeks after that is the next one. That's not when the action is going to happen. It's a really long-term orb of influence that these eclipses have on our lives. So depending on where they fall in your chart and what they're doing and how they're aspecting, you're going to feel them. Some of us are going to feel them a lot. And I was telling a friend today, it's a good thing we take turns. Imagine if everybody, if every eclipse hit everybody intensely.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine? But it's got to do with the math. It's got to do with what do you have that's really close to those numbers, um, and what angles are they making? Are they forming? So join us September 4th, and we'll be going over that. And you'll see on my Facebook page as well as the Astrology Unplugged Facebook page, group page, and we'll be announcing that just as a reminder. So the divine feminine. So the divine feminine, I just want to kind of put in a little disclaimer at the top here to mention that I'll be using the words man and woman often this evening, and you'll hear us, and that is the normative. I don't want to, that's the wrong word to use. You already messed up the wordage. But you know what I'm saying. I'm going to be using those words, but this archetype, this energy is within us all. And I don't care what you consider yourself in terms of your gender. It is uh, just as much as the masculine, right? So we are in unity when we are in touch and able to express both sides of those energies within ourselves, in unity with ourselves and God, our creator. So, but tonight it's about the feminine. So what does that really mean? The divine feminine is, it's that energy that archetypal force inside us that is that uh, the listener, the intuitive, the trusting of the inner knowing. It has a capacity to align with the cycles, and it's just a different energy than obviously the masculine. It has the ability to create, and creation, fertility are, words we can use when we talk about that energy. But it can be strong, powerful, definitely not just, a wallflower. Hold on, I have to let somebody in. And so uh, we're going to talk about this today in terms of when it came into our awareness in our society today, but also the asteroids that we know of, and thank God for Rick because he's going to help us along with because he's so knowledgeable with the asteroids. But there are, as you know, and because he's done this before with us, they add so much color when you look at these in our charts, right? So there's planets and we look at them, right? And then when you add the asteroids, it adds such a layer of understanding. And every time I talk to him and he tells me about something and then I go look at it in my chart, I go, oh my gosh, no wonder.
Hmm.
So there's something to them. And so I want to take the time tonight to also show you how to do that for yourself. Not everybody has astrology software, and we don't expect you to, but it's important to be able to go do that for yourself and find them. And that's free on the internet, and I'll show you how to do that. So, what else about the divine feminine? It can be earthly, the connection to embodiment and sensuality or the sacredness of of the physical, in a different manner than perhaps the masculine, but it is there. And I don't know, it's can be nurturing, and nurturing can be soft, but sometimes nurturing isn't just soft, you know? It's loving and understanding. And I guess one of the, it's funny every time I talk about this, whatever topic we're talking about tonight, I end up experiencing in my life. And it's crazy how that happens almost every time, 9 times out of 10. So that divine feminine in us, how are we awakening it? Number one, do we acknowledge it? Do we understand it? Do we suppress it? Do we negate it? I've known plenty of women that deny that part of themselves. And I've known plenty of men that actually embrace that side of themselves. So it truly has nothing to do with whether you're a man or a woman. It's that energy within us. And it is not to say that you are, always agreeable and always lovely and just, it's,
Or
it's that,
unbalanced.
oh yeah, yeah, exactly. That's not at all. And once you start understanding this for yourself and you're seeing it and how it plays out in your life or doesn't, you really have such an appreciation of, why the universe is the way it is and how we're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be in unity and not divided and fragmented or for suppressing or, you know, kind of embarrassed or what have you. I've always felt, I happen to have a lot of planets in my chart that are what you would probably call feminine planets. Uh, and I've always felt I don't have my masculine needs to be turned up a notch, a couple of notches, because I think that would be really, really nicely. It just goes so nicely with all that feminine. And in fact, Leo's a pretty masculine sign. So I'm glad I have that going for me. But you will get to see how understanding this in your own chart is really going to help you really bring that to your own life and to your own self, because this that we're talking about, this affects everything in your life, everything. We know that everything is connected. We know it's not just about me talking about the divine feminine and astrology unplugged, and that's not it. It's really how is it playing out in your life and in your energy field. So I'm gonna just take a moment and uh number one, thank Linda again for joining us because she's back with us tonight, and she's actually going to talk to us a little bit about when did we even start talking like this? When did
Mhm.
this come and to awaken us to this? Uh, at least it became more, uh, I don't, mainstream is not the right word, but where we really started to, goes back thousands and thousands of years since the beginning of time. It's not just, oh, because in the 70s so and so happened, but at least in the Western world here, we did see a time where it was really full force. So I'm gonna give her the floor for a little while. And she's gone. That's
Oh,
really funny. She
the
told us
way
this would
things
happen.
work,
That's so
right?
funny. I have two screens going, so I couldn't I have you guys on that screen. I couldn't really see her.
Oh,
But that's
Too
okay.
funny.
I know she'll be back. Hey, Anita,
she said
how's
she
it
was going to
going?
move.
Yeah, she's gonna
She was
move.
going
Yeah,
to move
that's what's,
closer to the router. Yeah.
yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Hello there.
Anita.
How are you? It's good to see
Thanks.
your
Hey,
name.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
hey, we can,
Yeah.
do you want to pause the recording for a moment while we wait for
Yeah.
returning?
Staying here.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. It's really nice to be here tonight. And I enjoyed our pre-talk about the divine feminine, however we want to express it. And Claudia was sort of mentioning all the different qualities of the feminine. And I know at some point we'll have a meeting on the masculine as well. This
Mm-hmm.
happens to be the feminine part. So this is about integration. You know, we have the feminine and the masculine. Doesn't matter what gender we are. We can have a masculine gender who's got a lot of feminine, and we can have a feminine who's got a lot of masculine energy. And, you know,
Right.
so we're not really talking about that. We're talking about just this quality of the feminine that was so repressed for so long. For one thing, it was not given its own agency.
Mm.
That was a big problem. So when
Mhm.
we were talking about the qualities of the feminine, one of them that I wanted to mention is relational. That women, they've done lots of studies that the feminine aspect of us is relational.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's cooperative. It's like we communicate, we want to get along, we want to cooperate. If we're doing
Yeah.
the yard, we can all pitch in and do it, right? So women have a much higher, or the feminine energy has a much higher, you know, degree of that
Right.
relational quality, whereas the man can go off individually, and men are more cooperative, are more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Will join together to solve a problem. Men are competitive. Who's got the best answer? You know, that's
Yeah.
just given in the Western world. So what we're talking about is the Western world. We're not talking about Africa. We're not talking about Australian Aborigines. We're talking about what happened in the Western world, that the feminine was so just repressed and beaten down for so long. And it came really in large part from the Middle East, from that Judeo-Christian thing. And you're going to hear some of how that happened in this timeline I'm going to give you. So this is
Does
kind
it
of,
include Muslim?
yes, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, I include them in the Judeo-Christian Islamic thing. It's all the same thing. So this is like a timeline to just, I want you to just think about it as I go over this, about the result that happened by the 70s and 80s. Women were like suddenly becoming empowered and awake, more
Mm-hmm.
conscious. And suddenly we had like an ancestral thing to stand on. You know, we had information that we didn't have before. So does everybody know what the Venus of Willendorf is? Can you raise your hand if you know what that is? It's a statue, 4-inch statue that was found. It's from the Paleolithic, called the Upper Paleolithic, which is just before the Neolithic. And you've probably seen it. It's like a really well-defined,
Stout.
you know, it's got very big breasts and big hips and everything, and the feet are kind
Oh,
of like the triangle.
yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Male archaeologists discovered that in 1908. They called it humorously the Venus of Willendorf because they just assumed it was like, well, that was their idea of feminine and fertility, you know, and everything. So it's still called that. I Googled it today, trying to find it referred to as the goddess of Willendorf and the mother of Willendorf. It's still called the Venus of Willendorf because archaeology is still, you know, it's in the patriarchal system. So 1908, that Venus of Willendorf was discovered in Austria by male archaeologists. 30,000-year-old thing, 4 inches high, early fertility image or artifact, and it's stuck in the ground. So you can use your imagination, understand that archaeology has information, but people they kind of intuitively go with it. And that sometimes gets them in trouble. And sometimes that we have breakthroughs because of that. So that's 1908. But in 1900, a male archaeologist excavated the Pallas of Gnosis in Crete. And he's the one who actually planted the seed of the ancient feminine world. He found artifacts that indicated that Crete was a peaceful, matriarchal, pagan, cosmic civilization. And he wrote about that. And even Freud jumped on the wagon. Mythology, Greek mythology, was really brought to life because of this discovery of Crete. So
What was his name again?
His name is Arthur Evans.
Okay.
And a woman, I was going to later tell you, there's a woman who wrote a book about him and how he uncovered all this stuff in Crete. And they also have done current forensic genetic studies in Crete, showing that only a small population, like 30% of the DNA, is not from the Middle East. It's from the steppes. It's from the East, which is what I'm going to be talking about. So Crete is still very important in the study of how we lost the feminine in the Western world. Okay, in 1921, a woman was born. Her name is Maria, or I'm calling her Maria. I don't know how to pronounce it in Lithuanian. Gimbutas, Gimbutas. That's when she was born. So she grew up very smart, went to university, even through World War II. So she focused on the Neolithic. 1942, in the midst of World War II, where they've had to leave and go live somewhere else. And she writes her dissertation on the prehistoric burial rites of the old world. And she also studied Lithuania. She did a lot of archaeology there. So this is all archaeology. So archaeology, what do they find out? They find out how people were buried. They find out what the artifacts were. They find out how people lived, where the houses were. And she was the one who's found in these, this is when she was doing the Neolithic stuff. She found out from the prehistory and the Neolithic that in this particular area of Europe, Lithuania and some other places, that women and men were buried in the same way. There was no king, there was no head chief indicated by the burial system. And so she started looking into this, and she did tons of work and did not get much thanks for it in the archaeology world, but she became very famous to women because she published books that showed all the pottery and everything that had symbols of the feminine on it. And she came up with this hypothesis called the Kurgan hypothesis. And what she said was, these places that she was doing the research, she called them old European culture. They were goddess, women-centered. They were based on burial arrangements that were homogeneous. They were equality-based. Artifacts, housing arrangements, indicating equality between the sexes. She was slammed for that, but here's what she said. Kurgan, these are the people who came in. So there was a group called Kurgan people who were male dominant in their culture. They invaded Europe and moved on down to the Middle East, and they imposed hierarchical rule through male warfare. Now, when this information first came out, it was considered conjecture, like, oh, that's the people are making that up. But actually, she did all the research. And she's somebody that I think she's so important because she's the one who really brought it out into the open. And a lot of the women who wrote books and who wrote as a result of her research, they were in Europe. Some were here, like Jean Bolin, but some were not. Gambudis wrote her first book in 1974, Goddesses of Old Europe. And then she went on later in 89, Languages of the Goddess, Civilization of the Goddesses. One of her books, I had it, but it was so huge and heavy and big and had so much. I gave it to somebody when I moved up here. Anyways, 1974. So the 70s is really when things start to start really get going. And that's 1974. We don't know if anybody knew anybody. We don't know, like, were these people having conferences on Zoom? No, there was no Zoom. So all these things are happening at the same time. There was a book that came out, Our Bodies, Ourselves. That was 1973. Abortion was legalized in 1973. A woman named Merlin Stone, who was an art historian, she wrote When God Was a Woman in 1976. Well, that's when it was published. And I'm calling that the feminine theology. So with Gambudis, we have the pure history, we have the data. And then we have Our Bodies, Ourself. That's like a political, it's like, say there's a tree and there's, Gambudis is down at the bottom. And then we got the political part. Then we got Merlin Stone and her feminine theology, because she goes into the art and like the more the spiritual aspects of it. And then 1979, she writes another book called Mirrors of Women, Womanhood. And that's like about the art and mythology. Then in the 80s somewhere, somebody did a cross-cultural study of abortion. And I used to have that book and it's disappeared through the wayside. So they collected all the data they could from libraries on the role of women and how women made the decision to keep a pregnancy or not keep a pregnancy. And a lot of it had to do with things like if there was enough food, famine, or is the winter too cold or whatever, going to have enough to eat and things like that. We have kind of a strange idea about even reproduction and women's authority in terms of motherhood. And that book came out in the 80s. It was not a popular book. It was one that some of us found in a library, that kind of thing. But I'm just mentioning it. It's like it's part of the whole thing that's going on here. Then we have Riane Eisler. She wrote a book in 1987 called The Chalice and the Blade. And this would be the sociology. She took all of Gambudis's information, and she really expounded upon it in a more intuitive way and more, she just like went with it. And what she said was these people came from, from the steppes. They came from Russia and from places like that. And they came in their tribes. They had lots of tribes and stuff. And people came in and they were patriarchal. And as I was doing this today, I realized like we're kind of dealing with something like this now. We have a minority of, say, 30% who are dominant in the masculine archetype and bypassing the feminine archetype, which has to do with relational things, with nurturing, with compassion, with getting along, doing what's good for everybody. And here we've got the competition and we got that all going again. That's just kind of a sidebar, but that's Riane Eisler talks so much about that, of the dominant culture of these people coming in. And it's in the book of Inanna, if you've ever read that. And she's down here too. That didn't come till 1983. So Riane Eisler was huge, 1987. Before that was the Mother Peace deck in tarot. So I wanted to bring that in, that this was starting to penetrate out into the metaphysical. The Mother Peace deck were the ones, the cards were circular, and they included cultures from all over the world. And that, was like a groundbreaker in terms of metaphysics. And then there was another deck called the Sacred Dakini that was based on
Oh.
feminine archetypes of India, of Hinduism. And that came out in the 70s. And that's amazing to think about. That was like the most groundbreaking. I mean, until we had the Rider Waite deck, and then we didn't have anything else. And then this Dakini deck came out, and then wham, everybody was doing different kinds of tarot books. Jean Shinoda Boland's book, Goddesses in Every Woman, that came out in 1984. And that's the astrology branch of the tree of the feminine growing and growing and growing in the Western world. Then the Great Cosmic Mother, that was 1987, a little after Jean Boland. The Great Cosmic Mother was probably my favorite book because it really is a history. It's the history branch, and I don't know where these women were from. I can't even pronounce their names. So I think they were European. And one of them has videos still on the internet, which I'm going to look at more. In that book, what I learned was that the Earth, they did the science part too. The Earth is, 90 to 95% biologically female. And I'm not talking about, men and women. I'm talking female. Everything comes from the egg, and the Earth itself, just the Earth itself, in terms of its reproduction and everything, is female. There's the question of how did it happen that this got sidetracked, and we don't really accept, people make up stories about it. And of course, the Greek mythology, Zeus and his brothers were the ones in charge. And Rick and I have talked a lot about this, of what was there beforehand. They represent the coming in, like Zeus, and that mythology is part of with the feminine that was existing in the Middle East, like Demeter, the mother, kind of thing. So we Cosmic Mother, which I really highly recommend, pulls out stuff from the Bible that really makes you the Old Testament of how women were in that culture. That is just, it's so apparent.
Can you repeat that? Because the key words of the verbs of how women were treated didn't come over the audio. Everything else came over beautifully.
How women were treated in the Old Testament made me cry.
Okay.
They quoted scripture from the Old Testament that showed what the culture was like, and how this had gotten into the whole fabric of Western civilization, and undermined the authority of the feminine. And just, I mean, think about it. Until the 1900s, people could still say, oh, women didn't really have a soul, or women weren't smart, or women couldn't vote, women, and now we have a segment, a very small minority, who are the same thing. So Great Cosmic Mother, very important book. Then in 1983, well, prior to that, Inanna was translated from the cuneiform from Sumer. And this was an incredible breakthrough, and links it to astrology, because Inanna may have been, was she real queen or was she Venus? Because the whole thing has so much to do with the cycle of Venus and the retrograde and this, that, and the other thing. But it also has to do with the merging of those two cultures, that, the herder versus the farmer, of who is Inanna going to marry. So finally, two more things that take us into the astrology. We have the discovery of Sedna, the dwarf planet, in 2003. This was the first time that astronomers named one of the heavenly bodies after a female from another culture. And they began to go outside the Western mythology and naming things from different indigenous cultures. So Sedna is, to me, extremely important in the whole unfolding of the feminine, and these feminine archetypes, like Sedna representing the sacrifice that the masculine sacrifices the feminine so he can live, you know. That's one way of looking at it anyway. He doesn't save his daughter, and the monster tries to destroy her as well. So it's very patriarchal as well, and it's a totally different culture. So that in itself is kind of interesting. There are people who look at the male-female stuff in terms of environment. There's something called environmental determinism that goes way back. My background's in anthropology and folklore studies. So environmental determinism says that, you know, the environment is in large part also going to contribute a lot to the kind of culture that's there. And you think about people living in close to the Arctic Circle, which is where the myth of Sidna comes from. You know, the male is so important. He's strong, and he has to go on long journeys to try to, you know, feed families. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So, you know, we how much of this is like, it's not like somebody's trying to be mean, maybe by saying, no, you're a girl, you can't do something. It may not be that at all. It may just be some of this economic or, you know, cultural, environmental determinism. But in the Western world, the feminine got just so, I don't know how to say it. What's that? Maligned or something, you know, or just
Vilified.
Vilified. Yeah, like Lilith. Oh, I didn't even talk about Lilith. But when those of us living at that time, and I know Erica, you were, so you were alive and kicking when all this was going on.
Yeah, I had
finding
Our
out-
Body Ourselves.
Yeah.
And
oh,
I read the book Lilith. It's a fictional book, but boy, is it ever great.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's
when we
very
found out about
entertaining,
Lilith,
too.
oh my gosh, Lilith was just like, so anyways, this all, what did I get from this? Well, I mean, I'm going to just tell you the truth. In anthropology, when we learned about the Venus of Willendorf, I remember feeling embarrassed. Here's this naked sculpture of this fat woman who looked a lot like some of the women in my family, that kind of design of body. And I was embarrassed. And it wasn't until Gambudis who renamed her the mother of Willendorf. And then now we call her the goddess of Willendorf. So now, you know, we're proud of her. We're proud that there were women in the Neolithic.
What
who
did they
had
call her before that you weren't proud of?
Venus of Willendorf, like she's
What's
a
wrong
sex
with
object.
Venus, though?
Well, back then, Venus was like, you know, Venus de Milo and Marilyn Monroe, and, you know, like Venus was like the sexy woman. So they named her Venus because they didn't have the thought of anything else. I mean, you can look at her and see like she's also a mother, you know, she's pregnant probably, the Venus. So
Broad
anyway,
feminine archetypes were not recognized by the culture.
exactly.
So Venus would have been the only choice.
Choice, right. That's all they
Well,
would
I've been
have.
studying
Particularly
astrology.
academic.
I've been studying astrology since 1970, so Venus sounded very positive to me.
Yes, well, it is positive to us. Yeah, I'm not
Mhm.
saying it isn't, no. And I think it is in Inanna as well. The whole Inanna story is definitely a positive thing. But I just know that the emergence of the feminine brought self-esteem and empowerment to women and to men. Men, you know, now they can stay home and take care of children, and the woman can go be a lawyer if she wants to. And there are families like that. And we have the ancestral history, we have her story through the digging up of her bones. Without the archaeology, you don't have anything because things were not written down there. Yeah.
And I'm sure there were many men who were present in burial practices, digging the holes and
Yes, of course.
securing
Right.
the Venus of Willendorf,
Yes. Right.
making sure that it was safe.
That it was safe. Yes. Yes.
and preserve.
Absolutely. Yes. So we,
So there is that.
yeah, we think of this time, this matriarchal period in the Neolithic and pre-Neolithic, as a time more of relational integration, where the male and female were more, the archetypes were more, they're just more integrated. I mean, yes, the woman gives birth, so she has to stay there with the infant, and the man, went off and got the food, but that didn't mean that he felt better than her.
Right.
That's the
Right.
difference.
It was a privilege to protect.
It was exactly. So
I've
that's
been
what we
studying.
lost.
I've been studying the history of Ukraine in the Yale classes.
Yeah.
That Timothy, oh God, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He's brilliant, but he teaches the class at Yale, and he goes all the way back to before the Tartars, to the steppes. They talk about the cultures. They talk about, like, even after that, serfdom. I mean, if you were a serf, then you were basically enslaved
You
to
were
the
enslaved.
nobility
Yeah.
your entire life.
Correct. Yeah.
You had to work for them. Whether you were a man or a woman, it didn't matter. When did people have time, really, to raise their consciousness? They might have been spiritual or be gifted or something like that. But going back in history, when you look at the type of life people had, like if they had a nomadic life and they were traveling, or if they were living in the middle of the desert, trying to survive, it really depended on where you were living, what your culture was. They talked about the Jewish culture at that time, that it was like a business who you married, because the wife had to work. So you didn't marry, for love. You married for how connected your wife was, how intelligent she was, and whether she could bring money into the family. So women have been impacted by all this stuff just like men, and we're just happen to be lucky that we have the time and the bandwidth to think about these things. They didn't have time for this.
No, they didn't.
So we can't blame them.
No, I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying
I
that's
know
the
we're
way
not,
it
but I'm
was.
just saying.
This is some of the history. What did happen though is the punishment of women, the degradation of women, and women are still being raped and sold into sex trafficking. So that comes from the Western culture doing something that just went totally off the rails. And that's got
that
to
happened
do,
in the East too, and in
yes,
Africa too.
it
I mean,
happened.
serfdom was practically the same
Yeah,
thing.
I know. It happens anywhere where the male and female stuff is out of balance. And
It's
some
a power
cultures,
thing, yeah.
yeah, some cultures don't have that out of balance. And they just tend to be more matriarchal, where there's more harmony. Then that's
Well, if you
true.
said no back then, that was it.
Yeah.
You were dead the next day. So you pretty much towed the line if you wanted to stay alive and take care of your kids and family and your husband. So it was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you, Eric, is the archaeology shows that there was a time that it was more harmonious, and that was in the Neolithic, where people were more earth-based, and there was more integration between
and smaller groups of people.
No, they weren't small. They were huge. Some of those.
They were?
Sure, I think so.
Weren't they tribes or something like that?
Yes, but there were also civilizations,
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying they were dependent on each other.
Yes.
And so there wasn't like kings, because to be a king, you usually had to take slaves and accumulate money. They hadn't gotten to that point yet. They were just trying to survive. And so
they were surviving fine.
I think what I hear being said is they weren't just dependent, they were supportive.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They were mutually supportive,
yes.
Not because they had internal self-worth of their own identity, having balanced integration of both the masculine and feminine principles within women and men individually.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Well, here we are with being astrologers. We have the opportunity, like you were saying, Erica, to look at our own selves and how we can be more integrated and how we can teach that. And compassion is one of the big words of the feminine. Huge. Compassion, relational, nurturing, but also strong because we understand the whole earth kind of process, seasonal process, you know, of honoring that. So thank you all for listening. I hope that you got something from that timeline that
Can I
all
ask
this,
a question or just throw an idea
Yeah.
out? Okay,
Yeah.
so could it have something to do with, you talk about the feminine and the nurturing, and to me, I'm thinking about giving life and life, and you talked about that, and also farming, right? There was this a new way of using the land so that it could produce for these people, these large groups of people. And then you had men, the masculine, going out and not like killing like 1,000 animals, right? But they would go out and when they did kill an animal, they were revered for that. The women weren't necessarily revered for tending to the soil.
well, we don't know, but yeah.
Well, okay. Well, let's make an assumption.
You know, I honestly don't know. I don't know.
No, okay, right.
But I hear you. I know. Yeah,
I'm
and it
just
was a
wondering-
reverent thing to kill the animal, too.
So
Yeah.
I can give a little highlight again from the pagan community.
Was that a catalyst though in the more definitive masculine versus feminine instead of what might have been considered a more traditional communal?
Communal. Yeah.
So amongst the
Yeah, I hear you.
contributions of anthropology, when looking at early civilization, early existence, even if you don't want to consider it civilized, maybe there were just pockets, right? The male hunters and the female gatherers, the gatherers had to go ahead and store what they gathered. So as they would go ahead and pull together root vegetables, they found that they could go ahead and store them underground and it would last longer. And we still find that today, that one of the ways to preserve things in a basement would be to layer them in dirt. Well, it would have been the women responsible for those storehouses of earth-covered root vegetables that they would say, oh, this one's sprouting a green thing. And there you start to recognize the women's wisdom as they are observing what their resources are and how they are learning about life cycles, even in biology outside of their own bodies. They are absolutely at the root of creating farming. So they were the ones who had that wisdom brought to them. It was definitely something that has been recognized anthropologically would have been in that direction. So that was revered as well, because that could be controlled.
Right. So go for it. What's next? Let's move on.
I was going to say for men too, if they wanted to continue their line, they needed that child. So they needed the woman to give them that child, and only a woman could do that.
Yes, that's true. But in some societies, it was the man that, you know, gave her the child. And, you know, that's a whole different system where the children belong to the woman. and to her.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm
Yeah,
not saying
but-
that. I'm just saying that both sexes have always been needed in
Oh,
order
yeah.
for life to continue,
Exactly.
and they're
Well, yeah,
equally important. It's just that, you know, politically speaking,
yeah,
you know, for many, many reasons over many, many eons, men have been the ones that have gotten the credit, etc.
in the Western world.
Yeah, and parts of the Eastern world
In the
too.
Eastern world. Well,
Yeah,
I didn't mention
it
the
might
one,
depend how educated they were.
yeah, I was going to
you
say
know.
there's one more book I didn't mention. It's called The Alphabet versus the Goddess by Leonard Schlein. And he maintains that as soon as humanity started to write things down, we went very left brain and male dominant. And he felt like that was one of the things that contributed to the imbalance in the Western world, plus the Asia, because they had written word in China. Places that didn't write down were more still in touch with the earth and cycles and intuition and ceremony and seasons and, organic flow of life where everything is interdependent.
Mhm.
And he
I will
believed,
add to that that oral tradition was known to create greater memory,
right,
and which that would help to retain and develop and amass
yeah,
wisdom passed down.
right, true, yeah. So what can we learn from this? Here we are, the products of this feminine revolution that happened, of being able to do things differently than it was. I'd say things started to change. Things changed after World War II because women worked and they did so much in terms of the factories, and they were in the war and things like that. It was never the same after that. Women were on their way to becoming more empowered, and they weren't going to maybe stay in abusive relationships and things like that. So, we're now here we are. So what do we
Maybe
learn
as
from this?
astrologers, we can put more of a focus on those goddesses and show people the power of the goddesses in their chart so that
Yeah,
they can,
yeah,
adopt that
Integrate.
too.
that's what Rick's going to talk about, I think.
That's what we're going to talk about next.
Right, exactly. Thank you, Erica. Okay, carry on.
Like you did, you just handed it right to us. So, yeah, all that is so fascinating. Thank you, Linda. I
You're
mean, so
welcome.
rich. I
Beautiful.
didn't know you had that background, and it shows. It's wonderful. So, we're going to move on to looking at a few asteroids and how they can be really supportive of finding that archetypal nature, that feminine in your chart, and the different sides of the feminine. They don't all look the same.
Sure.
So I'm going to hand it over to Rick. And Rick, I wonder if it's before I do that, give me just a
Mhm.
second. Does everybody here know how to find asteroids in
Oh yeah.
Astrocom? Like
Let-
if you were to
Let's review it anyway for those watching the video in case they
yeah. So I'm going to share my screen. And as you all know, and I'm sure you all know here, but for those watching on YouTube, um, Astro.com is the resource that you want to go to. It is very reliable, and you don't have to pay for it. So what you would do is after you make an account, it's gonna generate your chart. But let's say you want to find Juno in your chart, or like let's say Eris. It doesn't matter which one. So you would go right up to the top right here. You would click on user profile. And then after you get to that screen, and did my screen, are you watching me do this in real time?
Yes.
Okay. So then you're going to go right here to preferences and subscriptions. click on that, and then you're going to go to edit on the second line, which is standard drawing personal default setting. That's really where you're going to always usually go if you want to pull up, say, your solar return, or you want to look at an asteroid, or you want to look at a lunar return or a synastry chart. So let's say, so this is my chart, but let's say that I want to look at, bring you down here. See this list right here? This is very useful. I'm sure Rick is super familiar with this, and he probably knows so many of these numbers. Asteroids are actually identified. They have identifiers and they're numbers. So for example, shout out a number for me, Rick.
9,000.
9,000? Is that what you said?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So if I were to plug in 9,000 and I know that that belongs to whatever asteroid, I would put it in this box and I would click down here. Where is the generating of the chart?
Oh,
Oh, show the chart.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it. Especially with most of the asteroids, you're gonna have to know the number, or you can type in the name. But, and I'm gonna show you that in a second. But you see how there's a list over here? These are the most common ones. And you can usually, I mean, for the purposes of tonight, like Linda just mentioned Sedna. I could have clicked on this, and then I would go to show the chart, and it would put Sedna on my chart. So I just clicked it, and it's in my 12th house. It's right here. It's also going to show down here in this menu.
Good.
And you remember how we typed in 9,000? I'm not
Yes.
sure what that is, and if you know offhand.
Who's familiar with 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Me?
Do you remember the name of the computer?
Yes.
Is that 9,000? Was that his number?
Yeah, HAL 9000.
Oh,
So when they
they're an
when
asteroid?
yes, they chose when they were the astronomer who discovered the 9,000th had the privilege of naming it, and it was named after HAL. So now we look at it for evaluating AI and how people relate to that information and
What degree
so
is
forth. In the chart for Claudia, it's at 11 degrees of Libra in her 5th house. So interesting stuff. We're
It
still
is,
trying
and-
to unpack how it's going to affect people.
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It is, and you can do this with the regular ones like Chiron and Vesta and
Achilles.
and that you saw the list on the left side right here. So you can work with this list, or if you click here, it gives you a whole giant list. So for example, I think there's one called,
Click it to show them the alphabet.
yeah, let's go to P.
Oh my gosh.
If-
Just oh gosh.
Yeah, if you happen to go ahead and use Chrome, you can do a Control F and start typing what it is you're looking for. And as long as you've got the list that shows P's, it's going to really jump out at you. And
Psyche. Let's say I wanted Psyche, right?
I use that one a lot.
Yes, so I click on here.
Yep.
And it's going to put it in this box. And so we
Absolutely.
go show the chart. And we see that it's in my 9th house. So you can do this with as many or none. So like when I look at charts that Rick sends me, they're full of asteroids. I don't know how he does it, but they give you a lot of extra information. And some of them, I mean, like I have my Juno right here. I've got Pholis right here. I mean, I'm not showing it right now, but those are really important things that are going to add a level of understanding to my chart for myself. So you guys got to do the same thing. And this is free. So play around with it. It's really great. It's
Show
really
us one more time how you got there.
okay. So
Share your screen again.
Did you go to the search engine? I mean, the search box?
Yeah, so once you create an account on astro.com,
Yeah.
let's assume that you did.
You can
create an
also use
account.
the green bar that says chart selection. That's
Yep.
a fast way to do
But
it.
let me go to the home page, right? So I'm going to assume that you guys have created an account and you have generated your chart, which anyone can do and it's free. So the first thing I'm going to do, say if I want to look at an asteroid, and because I need to look at that menu, I go to My Astro, I go to User Profile, and then I'm going to go to right here, the second line on the left-hand box, Preferences and Subscriptions. Click on that. And then you're going to go to the second line here and click Edit. And this is gonna, what I just did, that's gonna allow you to do a whole lot of stuff. I mean, you
Yeah.
can look at, if you're familiar with Hellenistic astrology, you can pull up your Time Lords, like your release, zodiacal releasing. You can pull up so many things. You can look at all kinds of charts. But for this exercise, you're gonna scroll all the way down. And let's say I want to know where Pallas Athena, she's right here in this menu. These are the popular ones. So I want to look at Pallas Athena. And let's say I wanted to look at more than just Pallas Athena. Let's say I wanted to look at Eris as well. Click Control. That allows you to pick different ones. And now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to show the chart. And it's going to show me that Pallas Athena is right here in my 9th house. And my Eris, did I say Eris? Is that what I said?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
It's
did.
in the 11th house. And you can do that with as many as you want. And you can do it for your family. And you can see, I mean, this is so much fun to play with because it really matters when it comes to, there are certain things in your life that are either reoccurring themes or something where you feel like this is something that my friend Susan just doesn't experience. But I always have felt like, I don't know, I'm obsessed with horses or something. I don't know. I'm making it up. Or that I have this like real karmic tie with this person, or you can really find out a lot of information through these asteroids. So I would really encourage you because it's free and it's and then you find out, like for example, right now I'm going to go and I'm going to find out what is Pallas Athena doing in my 9th house. It's not making any aspects, but I still want to know what it's signifying for me, you know?
Absolutely.
Claudia, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Once you choose those asteroids or those other objects that you want in your chart, is there any way to save it as a default so you don't have to go
Yes.
hunting them every time and they will always turn up?
If you look at the even where you were, just to make it, the fastest way is there. Show the chart. Okay.
Chart select-
Above the time, that's it. Save default settings. You select that and you're resetting your default to show all those things that are in this particular chart. So as you begin to integrate new things, I like working with this. I'm going to go ahead and keep it. So I'm going to reset my default.
Will it be for other people's charts too, or just you have to do it one by one?
Let's go
It
to
will
my
be.
mom's.
It'll give you all those preferences for each chart.
Yeah.
So default means default
For
in a
everything.
For
very general
everything.
way. Oh, that's great to know. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to go ahead and see how something obscure affects different people, you can go ahead and look at all the different charts. Where's this in so-and-so's chart? It's fascinating with families too, because then you can see astrologically inherited
Oh yeah.
similarities.
I
Like,
think I
Absolutely.
found my dog in it.
oh, okay.
I think our dog Igor was someone that was karmically connected to us, and he looks just like Sirius because he was a whippet.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
That's amazing. So there you have it.
He's
So
in the sky. I can look at him at night because when I miss him.
wow.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things like that, like you'll find out there are certain things that are peculiar or uh,
Whimsical.
whimsical. Just let's say I really love to wear certain costumes that is like I'm obsessed with it. I bet you there's an asteroid that's going to tell me why I do that. Like I know it sounds odd, but I'm telling you, it works.
I think
There
there
are
may be one called Quirk or Quirky.
there are
See?
several that show whether or not you're interested in astrology and whether you're even
Mm-hmm.
going to be a gifted astrologer.
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
you should
Astro
look at
Wizard.
those.
Astro Wizard.
Astro Wizard is one of them, yes. And I have it
Celeste
written down.
Child.
That one I don't know, but I will put them on the Facebook
Thank you.
page in the
You
comments
should. Thank you,
under
Erica.
today's posting for this
Nice.
class. So
Yeah.
everybody can look it up and you do have to
Yeah.
look up the numbers to some of them, and maybe I'll even find out the website that tells you what those numbers are, because
Sure.
they'll give you the alphabetical one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was trying to look up Vulcan or something like that. So there are many different
Categories.
categories. It gets a little complicated, but once you find the right one, oh boy, you go like, oh my God, it's like right in front of my nose and I never knew it. And so it's amazing. And
Yeah, Urania is one of the 9 muses, and I love when I'm
that's
doing
the
a
one for
deeper dive.
astrologer. Yeah.
Yes, one of those. I love doing a deep dive on people at times, and then I'll sometimes use the muses to see what are their inherent talents. How do those talents show up? Whether it be dance, lyrical poetry, sacred music. It's
Right.
fascinating to look at that.
Really?
So Urania is a muse
Yes.
also?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Oh, that's fascinating. I'm totally doing
That
this.
is so cool.
You know what? My Pallas Athena is conjunct Urania.
Oh, so there's your wisdom.
Whatever that means,
Wow.
but I'm going to look into that.
That's cool.
Okay.
That's what you do. That's why you're doing what you're doing at this very moment.
Isn't it amazing? So why don't
There's
we move
also, by the
on?
way, I gotta share this one tidbit about the astrology. There's one called Richard's Star, and I certainly couldn't help but looking that one up for both Rick and myself,
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's
It was
so funny.
It's called
Um,
Richard's Star.
right. I think there's 2 R's in star in that particular naming.
Oh, I have to look at that in my brother's chart. My brother who passed away, because he's Richard also.
Mm. Oh, there's a number of Richard asteroids. Yeah.
so why don't we move on and let's talk about there's a few that we want to go over tonight, and I
Ooh,
want to make
feminine
sure that we
goddesses.
cover. Yeah, there's a handful of them, and we probably won't be able to spend a whole lot of time on each one, but it'll definitely add flavor to our
Mm-hmm.
conversation tonight. And one of the ones that we had in mind to talk about was Eris. Uh, and it's one that if you are watching this right now and you follow this channel and you come here every other Thursday, you know that Mr. Rick D was the Eris guy. He was the guy. And I have to tell you, I've still yet to read the book. And I, sh- I'm, you know, I need to read the book because it's one of those planets that more and more people are going to be really integrating into their charts and using it for interpretation. And it's only been since 2005 since we've known about it, but it is so potent and it's so critical for us to understand what it's doing in our charts. This is another feminine archetype that is, it's not like the Earth Mother. It's a different energy, right? So, in Greek mythology, I believe it was, she was known as the one that was, I can't remember, goddess of discord or something along those lines, but she's basically the one that is going to stand up for anything that's unjust,
Right.
that's not fair, and stands up for what's right. And she doesn't care how she does it. In other words, she doesn't care if she causes a ruckus. And, sometimes that is necessary. And we see that with, if you think about from 2005 to now, it's been 20 years, and how, you know, the energy has escalated tremendously into, I mean, it's almost volcanic. So within ourselves as well, right? And within the women in our lives, oftentimes they're just like, I'm not going to take it anymore. I've had enough. Because anyone that has felt, and I say women, but it could be the man, and that energy in him has been suppressed or not acknowledged or not, given any credence. And this is the planet that's going to give you that inner fire, inner power. Rick D used to say she's more powerful than Pluto, and we know about Pluto. So it is important that you get to know what it's doing in your chart, what it's not, what it's doing could be the difference between, what makes you kind of laid back, or hey, I'm obsessed with playing the trombone and I have to be the best trombone player that ever lived. It works, and it doesn't matter what you apply it to. It's just that she insists on, number one, being herself, being acknowledged. She's not, remember that movie, Fatal Attraction? Remember from I think it was in the 90s. There's a scene where Glenn Close, I'll never forget, she calls the guy and she says, well, I'm not going to be ignored. It was so, this is her. She's not going to be ignored. And I mean, forget the fact that, the fatal attraction thing, but it's that kind of energy. Because she insists on not being marginalized, not being rejected, and that being left out or being excluded is what motivates transformation and motivates change, and it motivates her or him, so that is one that I really, you know it doesn't look, it looks different, but just, we're complex beings. Feminine energy is not always going to be this loving, wonderful, nurturing,
Right.
loving, earth mother. She can be, but let's talk about a mother bear. You want to see, what can be disturbed if you hurt her kids, is that's the wholeness of embodying this energy. So that was the first one, and that's really not an asteroid. That's a planet, but it's one of, they call it a planetoid, but it's further out than Pluto. So the idea is sometimes the further out, the more potent and powerful it is, and the potential for change and transformation, and for you to be a change maker, is higher. So, did I say enough about Eris? I get heated up about that one.
Well,
And he loves it.
yes, and absolutely. And I have to say, it was in one of these episodes that he shared something about Eris, and I was thinking about how she got her start throwing the apple in between the three goddesses. And the prize was to go to the fairest. And interestingly enough, all those petty behaviors they were exhibiting internalized the word fairest to reflect beauty. And it was in the episode where Rick and I were riffing on this somewhere that I actually thought, oh, wait a minute. It's not just fairness of beauty, it's fairness of justice, fairness of soul.
Mm.
Wow.
That is
Mind blown.
revolutionary, revelatory.
Right.
What a great, yeah, I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it so much as beauty, but it's something, celestial or something along those lines. But fairness, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, obviously, you know?
And she's a goddess of justice.
Yeah.
Well,
You
and
know,
the other side, other side of this is in the mythology, what results from all this is the Trojan War.
right,
Mhm.
So there's consequences.
Yes.
It's
right,
it's not just the squabble over fairness. It's that if you don't do it in a fair way, you're going to end up with chaos and war. You know.
yeah.
Correct.
If
Yeah.
you don't internalize justice for all, you will have conflict
Yeah.
openly.
Well, and her discovery, of course, triggered that whole demotion of Pluto dwarf planet thing, which again is a two-edged sword because it's sad for Pluto getting demoted, but it opens up this whole huge range of objects that we have no idea about. So that we're on this edge of a new consciousness, if you will.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
if
You're absolutely right.
if the discovery of the planets is about adding a new element to human consciousness about what our development and our relationship to the universe might be, finding out about all these, you know, things out there that we don't understand, so on the one hand, the fairness is Pluto doesn't get to be the only dwarf planet that gets acknowledged,
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
but
Yeah.
then when we start to open it up, we see how much there is out there we don't know. So
Right.
Yes. So true.
sorry,
Absolutely.
sorry, I had to come in and go out, but my
All right.
my
We
friend
appreciate your contributions as you're able.
Yes.
my friend has my second car because he has a Porsche and it never works. He's one of the guys I coach with, and he's young, and but he's driving my car and it's out of inspection, so he dropped it off and then I had to take him home. So
That's all right. That's all right. We're always glad you're here, Linda. So do we want to move on to another asteroid?
Yes, and we're going to go ahead and hit those first four just with a nice scatter shot of respect and admiration. So here we have this telescope that comes into our experience and the discovery of Uranus. And people are looking now. So they start using telescopes and they find an asteroid, the very first one that they identify, see its movement, verify it is something there. And when they decide that they're going to go ahead and name it, it is an Italian, I believe a priest, in an observatory, perhaps in Palermo. I'm not quite positive, but he wants to go ahead and name this asteroid, and he names it after Ceres, the Earth Mother. That's the Roman name for Demeter, the Earth Goddess, which is responsible for nurturing, loving, caring, and looking after children, the earth, and has a daughter, Persephone. And there is a tale told that it is believed that Pluto abducted Eris, Ceres' daughter, on the plain nearby there, near that particular space. That's where she was abducted and taken to the underworld. So, Ceres, isn't it interesting? We named the first asteroid after the mother goddess.
Yes.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
it is the source of our central theme of socialization in looking at family. You cannot have family without children.
Mhm.
Not fully, not replicating. It must have children. We must have women to bring forth children. So that's, and I can't help but always think of those 70s commercials about the margarine and such, how you can't fool Mother Nature. The lightning strikes.
Yeah.
So secondly, the second would have been Pallas. Pallas is another one that brings in balance
Mm.
to the masculine, because at that point, Venus is the only really direct goddess of the classic seven planets, and the moon kind of given that feminine quality. So then, and keep in mind, for anybody who it helps, Venus in Greek is Aphrodite, that she is coming from the sea foam. That's what Aphrodite, like the hair of sea foam,
Right.
whatever that means. So then we have the Pallas Athena, which is a specific name that Athena takes as she sorrowfully processes her grief and bereavement, that I believe she was sparring with a friend, and she accidentally kills her best friend, Pallas. So she chooses to immortalize her friend and takes the name Pallas. But the intriguing thing of Pallas is that Pallas, a woman, a female goddess, was not born fully of a woman. Her mother, Metis, was tricked into playing a game because her father, Zeus or Jupiter, thought that had learned that a prophecy suggested that her child would kill him. And it turns out that he wants to make sure she doesn't have the child, tricks the mother into turning into a fly at one point, and even in a drop of water. And you see different myths. Some say that he ate the fly, some say he just drank the drop of water. So then the pregnant wife is within him. Pallas Athena grows to full adulthood and is born in full battle armor from his head, but he's aching and can't give birth because there's no way for that to happen. So Vulcan, the metalsmith, splits his father's head open to allow her to spring forward, and she springs forward from his head. And you also get some ideas that clearly she has a high intellect from this. She has also, coming along with full armor and somewhat being her father's daughter, has a commanding presence, and the glyph looks like the Venus glyph. Instead of having a circle atop the cross of matter, you have a diamond, which looks like a spearhead. So it definitely connects with the also it has a phallic connotation to it as well.
Mhm.
And it denotes things about your relationship with men in general. It can often
Oh.
tell you about that relationship. So how you get along with the men
Mm-hmm.
is something you can look at as you try to process it. Third asteroid discovered was Juno. Juno is the Roman name for Hera, the queen of the gods. Now, in the pre-Hellenistic period, that was reflected by what Linda was sharing earlier of the matriarchal time, there was a much kinder and more integrated relationship of the male and the female. So there was more dignity for both sides. That experience was recognized that in that integration and awareness, Hera had power. She refused Zeus's marriage proposal multiple times. She was keeping that power for herself. And then eventually she chose to go ahead and step in, but she still did her best to keep her power for herself. He needed that. It was a political thing to go ahead and have the respect of somebody who could settle down. And then the fourth goddess is Vesta. Vesta is a fascinating goddess. Excuse me. Yeah. Goddess of the hearth,
Mm,
the home, reflective of the fire of your soul that burns in the temple of who you are. So it tells you something about what fires you up.
mm,
Interestingly, she had no temples on earth. No one raised a temple to her. But every temple within that system had a separate altar to her where they would, because they all had hearths, they all had altar fires. So a portion of every fire was surrendered to that element of the mother goddess through Vesta. Juno is also the goddess of childbirth. And that's a very important thing. When a woman is coming into her time, as they would have said, they would have been appeasing Juno. And Pallas is the goddess of wisdom and war. She is the most warlike. So where you have Eris on one side, you have Athena on the other. But Athena brings the wisdom.
mm,
So there's a definite interest in peace.
mm-hmm.
So it's almost like a peace and war, because that wisdom is for how can we get along? But if Athena recognizes she cannot get along, this is where you find the difference between peacekeeping and peacemaking. She's not just going to keep the peace like an external force where it's not genuinely coming from within. She will make peace, bring parties together so their intellects see one another and value each other's identity. Keep in mind, she came from the head of the body, the head of the gods. So, yeah, it's incredibly powerful that if it's not going to work, she's going to war. She'll declare it. You know? So these are some powerful goddesses when you think of it. The mother archetype, the warrior, the wife and queen, and then the keeper of the hearth. So when I say keeper of the hearth, let's not forget, if you keep multi-generations, how much is grandma in the kitchen before mom is? You have some ancient wisdom coming there, I suspect, that you can find through Vesta as well. That would explain what is fueling your fire. So, that being said, I think it's a very interesting idea that everybody should look at least those 4 asteroids, bring forward, and integrate. And I'm going to talk about that for one moment here. That is the need for men, because they need to understand the same way women need to understand. It is all about healthy expressions. You have to have healthy integration of the strengths of the opposite, as well as healthy integration of your own. And we have 180 degrees of a circle that are feminine and 180 degrees that are masculine, and they're all interspersed. That is something we need to recognize. We are all both. And we all start from that perspective. And I also like to bring people's awareness to the idea of that the soul in many languages is referenced as feminine. And when you look at the descent of the goddess of Inanna into hell, into Hades, you are watching her divest of all of the earthly chakras, and she is a representation of the soul. It is what we experience as we go from life to life, as we release our earthly connections to name, how we dress, our all the factors that create our identity. It's a beautiful thing to look into. So,
Rick, you know what that made me think of? Made me think of, chromosomes. So I think you need the XY chromosome to be gender male, and maybe the X to be a girl. So maybe
double X. It's
Yeah.
XX for a girl, XY for a
XX for
boy.
girl and XY. So I'm just wondering, like, how the female could be the soul. Maybe that X or Y
The X
goes
is
away
everywhere.
and the X is everywhere, and so it doesn't matter anymore because you don't have the physical body and the need for that gender. So the X stays and the Y and the extra X go away. How's that for a idea?
It's a curious thought. I mean, earlier I was wondering when Linda was talking about marine biology, I was thinking, what do we make of seahorses who carry the fertilized eggs to maturity? The males are carrying the eggs.
Yeah.
So
We started out with parthenogenesis,
okay.
where whatever the organism was, it could reproduce itself. The problem with that system is that the host pretty much has to die because it's a cloning process. That's different than the seahorse, giving birth. But anyway, so somehow we came up with something else, or somebody brought it to us. I don't know. But yeah, parthenogenesis is really fascinating because that's the fundamental building block.
And what a twist on things, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This
That stuff when you were talking about Athena, Pallas Athena,
Yes.
the Vulcan splitting Zeus, he had a headache. I remember reading in the mythology.
Right.
He had this terrible headache, and it reminded me of Kali, because Kali in India, she's cutting off the head so that more soul can be accessed, and we
Right.
don't have to stay in the mental. I thought that's really interesting. It's like he had to get rid of some of his headiness and see a feminine part of himself displayed in his daughter.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe a softer. She's huge in Greece. The Pallas
Oh my God.
Athena and all
Yeah.
that. I mean, huge.
And the battle between her and Uncle Neptune, Uncle
Yeah.
Poseidon.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said they didn't name their city Poseidon, they named it Athens.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
That's right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she won the battle between them.
Yeah.
She
This is
provided the better gifts.
She had the better strategy.
right.
You were going to say, Linda?
These were, when you talked about these were the ones you wanted to talk about. But the first one, you said the first one that was discovered was named for like the Roman equivalent of Demeter.
Yes, Ceres.
When were these others discovered? Are they in line with the others? Are they like 1, 2, 3?
They were. Now, when we talk about the word discovery, we usually are more likely referencing validation and naming.
Yeah,
perhaps.
validation. Yeah.
Like, because they have to see it several times
Okay.
before they can confirm, yeah, that little wobble or anomaly is definitely an object.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. And as far as the discovery charts, I can go ahead and give you a quick
Oh, that's okay. I just thought, it doesn't matter to me that much. I just wondered if they were all kind of in the same time zone of being discovered,
Right.
early
I
telescopy thing. And
yeah, right. Oh, I have to go ahead and update the app that has.
that's okay.
I
Don't
haven't
worry.
gotten all of them here.
Yeah, that is not necessary. I was just
Yeah.
curious. I love the way you give the stories of them. It's really,
That's where I started my study in Greek mythology.
yeah.
That was my
And it
intro
shows.
to
Boy,
the
he's
wisdom
like,
comes there.
whew, worlds
Yeah.
away.
And I always thought how neat it would be to be able to share the wisdom around a campfire looking up at the stars.
Oh,
You
wouldn't
know?
that be amazing?
Yeah.
Oh,
You do some kind of a retreat and
yes.
you're away from the city lights. You have the better
Yes.
chance of seeing.
So
Yeah.
perfect. So perfect. This is
That's a viable business
something
idea
we need to aspire to
Yeah.
make that happen. We
I would
want to do.
attend if I could.
Oh yeah, me too. In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Any
Has
other
anybody
questions? Do
been
we?
seeing, has everybody been seeing, well, you have to get up early in the morning, but have you seen Venus,
I did.
Jupiter, and the moon? It's been unbelievable for several days. I get up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, I'm out there with my camera trying to get a picture of it.
That's
and everything.
amazing. Yeah.
I
And
can't
it's
get
at the
to
time of the
sleep.
dark moon, so
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
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 Which is another powerful moon. She is the 100th asteroid, Hecate. And
Oh, really?
there's something about the number 100 that
Is she out there too? Where is Hecate right now?
I don't recall at the moment, but I just know that she's the 100th, and it actually has something to do. Oh, the name Hecate or Hectare. Hectare means 100.
Hectare.
Mm.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why they chose to name her Hecate, because she was the
Oh.
100th discovered. So they come up with the astronomers come up with these
I know. It fascinates me.
rational,
No.
right, totally rational ideas as to how they're going to name them.
Yeah.
And then they turn out to mean something.
Right.
The astrologers put it to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
amazing things. Yeah.
You guys
you
have
can-
got to do this. You gotta
can name
you
a
have to
star.
plug these in because it's
There's
amazing.
so many stars out there that if you pay something, you can actually name a star somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's
right.
like gazillions of them, right? So
Oh,
my
absolutely.
star is 10 gazillion light years away
I
from there. It's
know, I
right
know,
there.
I know.
Hey, let's
Somebody
ask
gets
Anita
paid.
if she wants to share anything because we have to
Oh.
close pretty soon.
Right. Anita,
you
any
there?
thoughts?
Maybe she left us.
She could be off the screen.
Yeah, she could be.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, you guys, you really need to, I encourage all of you to play around with this because I just did it myself and I was like, what? And
I am still here, sorry.
That's
I
okay.
would love
Good
to
to hear from you.
Just took me a minute to unmute.
no,
No, I'm just absorbing everything. There's so much to unpack
yeah,
about tonight and how it impacts us going forward and how do we bring this
Yeah.
feminine
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the forefront now, post-industrial society. How do we do this and do it so that we don't maybe suffer through so many failed, what we call marriages? What is this whole concept now when we talk about bringing love into a relationship that at one time was really about the family? Rick, you talked about can't really have a family without children, and you need children in order to hunt and to gather and just to survive. So there was a very different reason for us to procreate than love.
Right.
Although I think maybe we're confusing love with in the Western society what love really means, and maybe it is family, maybe it is procreation, maybe it really is those things that we fail to recognize as being more important than this fantasy that we
Mhm.
create.
Well, Queen Victoria really brought in an idealized version of romanticism with the Victorian era of just loving her husband.
Yeah, and they had all
She
the
was so
children.
blessed.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So it did romanticize
yeah.
this ideal of love in general. So I guess before, as we close, my parting words would be, as we look at the first four feminine goddess asteroids, for integrating Ceres,
Mhm.
men should definitely learn that they are caring and nurture as well.
Yes.
Yes.
And they can, where they did not get it, they, as adults, they can give it to themselves.
Right.
Give yourself the grace and the freedom to validate that you can care for people.
Mm.
The second goddess, Pallas Athena. There should be a balance, that your conflict resolution toolkit should include rhetoric that deals with peace. You have to, but if there is no peace, you cannot walk away from the fight.
Mhm.
If there's no keeping peace, but you really have to use your wisdom to go ahead and explore the opportunities for peace.
Mhm.
The third goddess, Juno, we must experience fidelity and loyalty in our choices as to how we pair bond. Whether you are a man or a woman,
Yeah.
you're engaging in merging your souls. So if you're going to come to caring relationships, even if they're same gendered, it is still going to require the loyalty of your own commitment. So understand how you show up as a loyal partner.
Beautiful.
And the fourth goddess of Vesta, primarily, we must always remember that every effort that we seek the divine, we are serving our own soul, the same way the fires of sacrifice to all other gods include the fire of the hearth that honors our own souls. So it is our own soul that is nurtured by our spiritual walk.
Mm.
Well, who can
That's
say anything after
beautiful.
that, Rick? That's
Exactly.
beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love the way
Yeah, that
you
was
said
wonderful,
it.
Rick. Thank
So
you.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
And it makes perfect sense. Really
Linda, you have
bring it home.
Linda Jordan, you need to unmute so you can share those thoughts.
Oh, you're still on mute.
I just wanted to point out that I have an aunt named Vesta.
Wow.
Oh,
Do? Oh my
how cool
gosh.
is that?
Yeah,
Does
What
well,
is she like?
Does she let people know who she is?
well, she passed away relatively young. Her
Oh,
middle name was
no.
Marie, which is also, feminine
Mhm.
archetypally, and she was literally the goddess of the hearth. She was the home where of the 9 brothers and sisters where everybody went.
Wow.
Oh,
Great
my God.
cook. She was this, and her daughter has picked that up and carried it
Mm,
forward. So
what a
Oh.
legacy.
I think that sometimes naming is not as arbitrary and capricious as it seems. I don't think that's true in all cases.
Yeah.
My name is Linda, which is ridiculous. I'm named after a dead baby. But but I think there's
Linda means beautiful in Spanish.
yeah,
Right.
but it has nothing to, but I do
What do you mean?
I don't know anybody else named Vesta. And so I was
No,
That's
You go
amazing.
a far piece to find those
That's
people.
I've
beautiful.
never
Beautiful name.
heard that. Yeah, that's
We might have to
amazing.
go to Greece to find another one, right?
Yeah,
maybe.
Maybe.
yeah. That's
Demetra
love
George tells the story of how her family argued with her mother, and in regard to her name, it was elders that insisted she be named Demetra. That was
Oh.
not going to be her name as far as her mother wanted. She was challenged and the name was changed.
whoa.
Yeah. and she was the asteroid and goddess. They were huge in her life, and it was as though it
She's
was laid
still
out.
alive, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
she
I
is.
mean, in the throughout her entire life, it has been evident that her command of story and myth is stellar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's an excellent astrologer. Unbelievable, yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I think especially in the naming of the planets and these new dwarf entities, I think that there's a tap into the collective unconsciousness. You know,
Totally. Totally.
that I don't think I honestly don't believe any of that is accidental.
No.
Totally. I
Because
agree.
Eris starts out as Xena.
Right.
Yeah.
She starts
I
out as
mean-
Xena, and then it evolved, and she also has these sort of Xena-like characteristics. So, from the warrior princess era.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. Talk about a warrior. It's incredible how it all kind of falls into perfect significance, and it just happens,
Very
Well,
illuminating.
everybody, what a great night. Thank you both. Thank you both.
Definitely.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for your
Very-
Thank you.
contribution.
That was great.
And Brooke
Yes.
and Linda.
Join us next time. Next time,
Hey.
September 4th, we're going over these September eclipses and what's going on with them. So
Oh,
stay
boy.
tuned for that and look for at the updates on Facebook. But thank you for joining us. Love you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Have a
Much
great
love to
rest
all.
of your August.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Many blessings,
you.
everyone.